What is up? What is going on, everybody? Welcome back. Welcome into the Seattle Mariners post-game recap. The Mariners defeat the Milwaukee Brewers tonight 5-3 to improve to 4-5 on the young season. I'm going to break it all down from Bryce Miller's tremendous start to a little bit of a puzzling decision to take him out for 7 innings. I'm going to talk about all of it. Before I do me a favor, hit the like button on the video. It helps out the channel tremendously. If you are new here, hit that subscribe button. I'm 85 subs away from 3,000. Guys and gals, 3,000 to me was like maybe sometime at the end of the year. If the Mariners make a run, I can get to 3,000. But with all the support you guys have given through the first couple weeks of this season, I'm knocking on the door of 3,000 here just a week and a half into the year. So thank you guys so much for the support. Think about becoming a channel member. We'll have a members only live stream this Monday for the game against the Blue Jays. Also, download the SeatGeek app or go to their website. Use promo code JSTrident for $20 off your next purchase. Mariners tickets, hockey tickets to any baseball game you want to go to, concerts, all sorts of events. So download the SeatGeek app or go to the website. Promo code JSTrident down there in the little box thing, and it'll save you $20. I think it was the most complete game the Mariners played this year. And yes, I did get to watch it. For the first, since Tuesday, I've actually got to sit down and watch a full baseball game. I thought it was their most complete win of the year. There were still some moments. I'll talk about all that. But overall, I really thought it was their most complete game, from the offense to starting pitching. A couple hiccups in the bullpen, but even there, Munoz able to shut it down. I thought they looked like a pretty solid baseball team tonight. Was the offense perfect? No, but 10 hits, 3 walks, 5 runs. It certainly was enough, right? And that's kind of what you're looking for from this team. Dominant starting pitching, which they should have, and an offense that hits a couple home runs, scraps out a few runs, and does enough where you're giving Kirby, Miller, Castillo, Logan, Wu, Hancock, whoever it may be, Dallas Keuchel, I don't know, enough wiggle room to pull out a victory. Then when fully healthy, you hand it over to Munoz, Brash, and Santos at the back end, and it should be a recipe for a lot of wins. Now, some of those ingredients are not ready right now, so you can't quite do that. But like I said, overall, I think this is kind of how this team is built to win. And yeah, I really did. I thought it was the most complete game. Their first non-one-run win of the year. It looked like they were going to cruise to an easy win, but it got a little dicey there in the 8th inning, and I'll talk about that. First and foremost, so, man, Bryce Miller, that's as good as I think I've seen Bryce Miller. Maybe there's some recency bias in there. 7 innings, 3 hits, no runs, no earned, obviously. 1 walk, 7 Ks. And listen, I know Bryce Miller had some really good starts last year, but the way he was mixing in the breaking and off-speed stuff today versus last year when it just seemed like fastball constantly, today it was just a better mixture of it. And Bryce Miller, to me, looked like an elite pitcher. And that's not to say he didn't have moments last year either, by any means. Miller had a really nice rookie season. But today, I really thought Bryce Miller looked like someone that you would put in that Kirby, Gilbert, Castillo conversation. That to me was as good as I've seen Miller. I mean, he was just pumping strikes. Even when Miller missed, like even the walk and even some of the balls that he threw I thought were good quality pitches. It wasn't like he had no control or command. They were hitting their spots. They were just a little bit outside or a little bit off, which is fine. Not every pitch should be in the zone. You're going to lend yourself to getting hit hard. So, I mean, truthfully, I can't think of anything negative that Bryce Miller did today. Like I said, I think this was the best start of his career. I've been I don't want to say down on Bryce Miller, but I've been a little bit more skeptical. You go back to last year, I thought he was kind of a one-pitch pitcher. If you look at his Savant page, and now I want to be clear, guys, with anything, with Fangraphs, Savant, any numbers data, I use them a lot. But they're not the end-all, be-all for anything either. That's got to be, I want to reiterate that too to you guys. If I'm pulling up someone's Savant page going, wow, look at this, that doesn't tell the whole story of any player in this league. So you got to use your eyes to watch it. You got to use the data, the scouting reports. I'm a believer in you put everything together, and that's how you create winning culture, winning environments, and winning teams. But, going back to Bryce Miller, it wasn't great. The breaking stuff just wasn't, it was more of show me pitch than it was an actual pitch. And I thought it showed a little bit at the end of the year. He kind of tailed off. Now, part of that could just been fatigue from his first kind of full season in the big leagues. But man, even the start against Boston, I know there were some moments, I forgot who got him for the home run against Boston. Emmanuel Valdez, is that who it was? But, you saw the breaking stuff. The splitter looked legit. The slider looks like it has more bite. Um, a two-seamer that's got some movement. So I could not have been more impressed with Bryce Miller today. Now, I know Milwaukee's not the best offense. They're 24th in WRC plus last year, but, on the road against a team you're not familiar with, I thought it was just a absolutely tremendous start for Bryce Miller. And my gosh, did they need it? Like, I don't think this game was a must win. Had they lost, I wouldn't have said season over. But you lose the Castillo start, you lose the Gilbert start, you lose the Kirby reverse out. It was Kirby, then Gilbert. And then here comes Bryce Miller. You know, you're only as good as your next day starting pitcher. And when you're kind of struggling, fighting it a little bit, Mariners had lost 3 in a row. It's not like they were lost 13 of 14 or something. But you turn to that starting pitcher the next day. Can you get us back on track? We saw Felix do that for years. Now, unfortunately, Felix was surrounded by just not enough talent, so it didn't matter. But, we saw it tonight. They turned to Bryce Miller, and he absolutely delivered. So not only a great start for Bryce Miller on the road, I'll still maintain it's the best I've seen Bryce Miller. Again, could be recency bias. But you had a team that lost 3 in a row with their big 3 going, was scuffling a little bit. So could not be more impressed with what Bryce Miller did today. Now let's talk about it. The decision to take him out after 7 innings. He was at 78 pitches. Not a lot at all. I hated the decision. I didn't like it. I guess I should have started with didn't like it, because hate it is worse than not liking it. Didn't understand it. It doesn't sound like there was any injury thing. I always want to pause on those before I just, go too far into bashing a manager, because sometimes you see these and it comes out, Bryce said his ankle hurt a little bit or something, so they decide to take him out. You know what I mean? So I try not to have snap judgment on these moves, just because there could be a lot of things going on in dugouts and locker rooms that we don't know about. But it sounds like Miller was fine, and Scott just decided to make that decision. I know a lot of you don't like Scott Service. I've defended him. I'll still defend last night. I have zero problem going to Andres Munoz in the 9th inning there. I know some people are like, oh, Gabe Spire. That would have been fine too last night. Spire and Munoz are your best relievers. It's the 9th inning of a tie game. Use your best players. That's absolutely a defensible, move by Scott last night. I have zero issue with that. Tonight, I do have a little bit of issue. Bryce Miller's absolutely cruising. He's at 78. If he was at 90, 95, I can get it. We're in April, right? Like we're a week into the season. And I understand, like, not wanting to push Bryce Miller. I get it. I do understand that aspect of it. This is his first full season at the bigs. Try and take a little bit of pressure off him. Ends on a great note with 7 shutout innings. And you are up 4-0. They were up 4-0 at the time. It wasn't 1-0 or something where one mistake can kill you. It was 4. If Brash and Santos were healthy, I still probably wouldn't like it. I'd still probably send him out for the 8th at 78. But I can understand it a little bit more, right? You've got your big 3 at the back end, and everything like that. So I can stomach being like, hey, we wanted to go to Matt Brash in that situation, or Santos. Fine. I get it. I do. But that's not the case right now. And you have Andres Munoz. Now, Munoz pitched a nice 9th inning. So, kudos to Munoz, and maybe, Scott knows better than me in some of these instances. But you've got Munoz, who threw 26 pitches last night. You don't have Matt Brash. You don't have Gregory Santos. I've talked about this. Bullpen makes me nervous right now. It's just, you're lacking 2 of your best 3 relievers on this team. So you're down a little bit in the bullpen, and Bryce is at 78. I'm not saying he needs to throw 110, 115 pitches, but I think you need to send him back out there for the 8th in that situation. You've got you got a bullpen that you don't fully trust. You've got a closer who not only threw 26 pitches last night, like I mentioned, but kind of looked terrible doing it. So, it would make sense to me to send him back out there. And it wasn't like Miller labored a little bit in the 7th or anything like that either, where, like, let's say he came into the 7th at 50 pitches and he threw 28 and struggled, and it was just like, okay, it's time to remove him. Now, with that said, and I don't agree with Scott's decision, Austin Voth and Gabe Spire need to pitch better too. So I want to be clear on that. It's never all on a manager, or all on a player or something like that. Same thing last night. I had a couple people message me and go, well, what, Scott putting in Munoz was the wrong call. Who else do you blame? was like, well, Andres Munoz, he walked 4 guys. Like, that's not Scott's fault when that happens. I don't blame Scott for Austin Voth giving up the 2-run home run or Austin Voth struggling. That's not Scott's fault. But taking out Bryce Miller and, and I get it, 4-0, like that should be fine, right? You should be able to put Colin Snyder, Austin Voth, Tommy Malone, Dallas Keuchel, whoever you want to put in there, and you should be able to pull that game out. And they did, right? They did end up pulling the game out. And maybe long term, it will be better that Bryce Miller only threw 78 pitches tonight. So it may pay off dividends in the long run. But I didn't like the decision when it happened. It wasn't just a reactionary, like, well, that's because they gave up the 2-run home run and everything like that. I didn't like it when it happened. I thought Miller should have been out there. He was cruising. He looked like he could go 9, honestly. Now, again, if you'd been 90, 95 pitches, I get it. You're up 4-0. Have someone else finish off the game. And what you had to do now, I mean, listen, maybe Miller would have given up some runs too in the 8th, so we don't know. But now you had to use Gabe Spire, who should probably still be available tomorrow. And Munoz is almost guaranteed to be down tomorrow. So you kind of end up having to burn some arms there in that 8th inning, and you needed 3 pitchers to each get 1 out. Voth gives up the 2-run home run, does get an out. Spire comes in, walks 2, walks Yelich and I think Contreras, if I'm not mistaken. Let me see the Brewers box score here. It was Yelich and Adames. He walked Adames. And then gives up almost, I thought it off the bat was a grand slam to Rhys Hoskins, but it ended up being a deep sack fly. And then Trent Thornton comes in and gets the final out of the inning. Then you have to go to Munoz in the 9th. I think that was a mistake. I don't understand it. I don't want to dwell on it too much because Bryce Miller was phenomenal. And truthfully, for me, that's the biggest takeaway from this game. And hopefully when you get Brash and Santos back, a decision like that is going to be less, I don't want to say less impactful, but less chance of imploding on you. And even with Brash and Santos, I still think I would have sent Miller out there, just to be very clear. At 78, I still think I do. Let him go the 8th inning there. But at least with those relievers, I just trust them a little bit more. And it would be more of I'd like to see Bryce go further, but I can, I get it. This one, Bryce is cruising. And I've talked about Austin Voth. He's looked pretty good so far, of course, up until today, as is always the case in situations like this. But I still don't trust him. He's still not a guy that I'm like, okay, we're good. Voth is coming in here in the 8th inning. You still have some question marks. Now, Scott's going to have to trust some of these guys because you can't use Spire, Munoz. If you want to throw Stanek into that mix, fine. You can't use those guys every night. You're going to have to rely on some other people. So again, like I said, I'm not mad at Scott for like going to Austin Voth in a 4-0 game. I'm mad because Bryce Miller's only at 78 pitches and was cruising. So just for anybody that I have a few people think I'm just like a Scott apologist. And I am sometimes for managers because I think there's a lot of nuance that goes into things. And I think, especially in baseball, when you play 162, it is very easy to overanalyze every single move. And I think over the course of a season, those things just kind of even out and don't really matter as much as just the talent does on the field. But I thought that was a mistake. I thought it was a bad decision by Scott. And, go ahead and rip him in the comments for it because I thought it was a very poor decision, especially with your bullpen already being thin and Munoz having thrown 27 pitches last night. So, but I'll end it at that. The Mariners won. I don't want to focus on a negative too much. Had they lost the game, I would have a much more angry rant about it. I will tell you that. But Bryce Miller, absolutely phenomenal. Like I said, I think that's the best I've seen him. And man, if that splitter, the slider, and everything is working, I mean, Bryce Miller is going to be a tough pitcher to beat. The Brewers looked off. There wasn't even like a lot of hard contact. It was very, very quick. I mean, the game was, I think, got like an hour and 45 minutes going that 8th inning because of how quick Bryce Miller was working. Austin Voth, the 3rd inning, 2 runs, 2 hits, 3 runs, all earned and a walk. Not an impressive outing for Voth. He's looked pretty good. I'm not going to let Scott's mistake or decision affect like, well, now I'm done with Voth because of this. He didn't pitch well, but he's still someone that I think has appeared in 3 or 4 games now. I think 4, and in 3 of them, he's looked pretty solid. In 1, he didn't. That is going to happen to relievers. Spire was not his normal self. His command wasn't there. Thank goodness the Rhys Hoskins fly ball stayed in the park. Spire will be fine. Not worried about him. Every reliever has off moments. Again, this isn't meant to say like, well, Scott should have put him in the first place. I get that. I do. And I just talked about that. But these guys still have to perform. And Voth and Spire were not very good. Not super worried about them, but just not on their A game today. Trent Thornton did get the final out of the 8th inning, which was nice. Got him out of the 8th inning, cleaned up the damage. Munoz came in the 9th, strikes out the last batter he faced, got a couple ground outs for one tidy 1-2-3 9th inning for Andres Munoz. Slider still is not biting the way we need that slider to bite. The fastball looks really good. It's got that kind of even late tailing movement to it, which makes it dangerous. Munoz's stuff is so good that he can survive when he's not fully on. I will say I was a little worried. I think, was he facing Adames or Contreras in the 9th inning? It was Gary Sanchez. It was Gary Sanchez's first batter he faced. And 2 balls right off the bat. I'm thinking, oh gosh, here we go again. It's going to be like last night. That's what pops into your head. Munoz settled in, ends up pitching very well. Would love to see that slider come back. I think he threw 1 or 2 of them tonight, and one of them had 0 bite, and I think both of them did, if I remember correctly. He may have only thrown 1. I don't really remember, but need to get that pitch back. And especially without Brash and Santos, need Munoz to be pretty lights out. Bottom line with the pitching, I'll say this. Take away Scott's decision to take out Miller. Take away all that. This bullpen absolutely needs Matt Brash and Gregory Santos healthy. Because, tonight kind of was odd because Miller could have, I think, gone further. But there's going to be nights when pitchers get through a game like this and they're at 109 pitches. And you have to go to the bullpen, right? Like, that's going to happen. And, they survived. It's another game that without some of their best guys available, they were able to survive. But you're going to need some of these guys to get outs. And the reason, a 4-0 game becomes 4-3 and then 5-3, you're relying on a lot of guys that have some question marks. So I do remain a little concerned about that back end. Hopefully Matt Brash is at least back soon, and then Santos behind him. I would expect Stanek to probably get the 9th tomorrow, with Spire being available and Saucedo as well. But Bryce Miller, absolutely fantastic. Nice bounce back from Andres Munoz. I'm sure after last night, he was itching to get back on the mound, and had a nice 1-2-3 inning. Let's talk about the offense. JP 1 for 5. He had a bloop hit that dropped in. Not much yet from JP, but good to see a bloop fall in for him. We'll take it. Julio was 2 for 5 with an RBI, 2 hits in his first 2 at-bats. Initially, I had said on Twitter that, it didn't hit the ball hard, but it was good to see at least some results. But then, what you got, Mariner Muse on Twitter, I don't know if he's watching this or not, but he pointed out that they were actually hit pretty hard. I went back and checked the exit velo, and he was right. They were actually both, I think, 98 and 102 off the bat. Live on TV, they did not look like they were hit very hard. I think, they were grounders, so, that always kind of happens when balls hit on the ground. But, actually some decent exit velo on those from Julio. And again, not super worried about all that stuff early on with exit velo and everything. Good to see Julio get a couple hits and an RBI. I think just for the confidence level of some of these guys, just some things falling in are better than anything right now. Jorge Polanco, 1 for 4, scores 2 runs, 2 RBIs. He had an RBI ground out in that 3-run 3rd inning. And then he gets the home run in the 8th inning, he gets the solo home run in the 8th. His first home run as a Mariner. Looked like it would probably was the difference because Milwaukee scored 3. So gave the Mariners their 4th run. Good to see that from Jorge Polanco, starting to hit the ball a little bit better. I've said before, these guys they're too good at hitters to be playing like this. I know we're only 8, now 9 games into the year. JP, Julio, Polanco are all better than their numbers. They are going to start to hit. We just got to let it happen. Got to have that 3 for 4 day, 4 for 5 day. That wasn't quite it from Polanco, but it was better, and it was good to see the long ball from him as well. Mitch Haniger was 2 for 3 at the walk. Mitch on base 3 times. Mitch Garver was 1 for 4 at the base hit. I think he swung 3-0, got a ball through in that 3-run 3rd inning, which was nice to see. Like I said, I don't think the Mariners necessarily crushed the ball in that 3rd inning, but it was good to see some hits falling in for them. And when you're scuffling, you take it any way you can get it. So that was good to see. Cal 0 for 4. Cal's fighting it a little bit early in the year. That's another one. He would fall in the category with JP, Julio, and Polanco. Too good of a hitter to, be OPSing 459. Cal will get going. I imagine I'll have a day off tomorrow. I think early on, just really trying to do their best to keep Cal, as rested as possible, which that's fine with me early in the year. How about Dylan Moore? 1 for 2 with 2 walks. Demo on base 3 times. Good to see Demo getting some reps at first against a lefty, with Ty being on the paternity list. Once again, congratulations to Ty France and his wife. It sounded like on the show they did say it was their first child, so congratulations to them. Dylan Moore, I've talked about a bunch, but last year, and I'm a big Dylan Moore fan. He came up back in June from the core injury, and his timing wasn't right. He seemed off. This year, getting to start the year with the big league club, and he has been one of their better hitters, OPSing 938 through 9 games, had some nice at-bats, has the home run, he's getting on base. I think he had a stolen base today as well, along with a caught stealing, showing his worth as a versatile player that can play anywhere on the diamond for you, can hit lefties, and again, has not completely lost against right-handed pitching as well. So good to see Demo healthy and really contributing. He did last year eventually once he got going, but really good to see it to start 2024. Luis Urias, 1-for-4 with a solo home run. How about Mr. Urias checking in? All of a sudden, swinging the bat pretty well. I thought he could bounce back. This is a guy that was a good hitter in 21 and 22. Missed a lot of time last year with injuries. I'm all for the memes and the jokes about the defense and some of the stuff in spring training. I'm not above that either. I was fine with that trade. I have no problem trading a reliever for a position player, and especially when the reliever is, truthfully, they could probably use Isaiah Campbell right now, to be perfectly honest, but not anybody that's, I think Isaiah Campbell's fine, but I think there's a lot of Isaiah Campbells out there in farm systems. There might be a lot of Luis Urias's out there as well, but we're again 9 games in. If I'm gonna say, hey, I'm being patient on guys, I can't start, going, oh, see, I said Urias might be a decent addition. We're 9 games in. He's an 0-for-5 away from that OPS being 580. So, if I'm telling you guys to hit the brakes, I gotta hit them too, right? But good to see the power there. Nice double yesterday. So Urias showing some value to the team. Samad Taylor, 1-for-2 with the bunt single. I like Samad Taylor. I don't know if he's going to be able to stick when Ty gets back. I just don't see who else you would send down unless there's a reliever you want to option. I think, with the pen being thinner, you kind of need all the relievers you can get right now. So I don't see him being able to stick, but I think we're going to see a lot of Samad Taylor this year. And I know it was a bunt single. Yesterday was just a base hit. It's not, anything crazy, but I love the versatility. And I think he is someone that can help. He can help on the base paths. The bat is okay. Like it can play. So we'll see. I do think we'll see a little bit more Samad Taylor as the year goes on. Luke Raley pinched hit for him and was 0-for-2. Bryce Miller, absolutely fantastic. And that has to be the main takeaway from today. We can dwell on Scott's decision. Again, I'll be first in line. Did not like it, didn't understand it, and there was no injury or anything to report on it. So it was just Scott's call. That's the wrong decision, in my opinion. But at the end of the day, what's more important for this team going forward is Bryce Miller continuing to look like this, and that splitter being a weapon, the slider, being able to use those pitches off his fastball. That is way more important for the Seattle Mariners going forward than anything else. And they get a win. On top of all that, they get a W with it. So, a great win. Probably, like I said, their most complete game of the year. Would have been nice to finish off the shutout and win that game 4-5-0. But, it is what it is. Bryce gets his first win of the year and a chance now to win a series tomorrow. A chance for the Mariners to win their first series of the year on the road. Get back to 500. Will it be the best 10-game stretch ever if they're 5-5? No. But chance to kind of reset. The offense looks like it's getting going. I thought playing on the road might help a little bit. It has, it looks like. And then if you can find a way to win tomorrow with Emerson Hancock on the mound and get back to 500, you turn it back to Castillo, Kirby, and Gilbert in Toronto. And I have a hard time seeing those guys lose 3 straight again. So I think you'd probably find a way to at least get one of them, hopefully 2. So that's all I've got for you guys today. Remember to hit that like button, hit subscribe. Mariners get a real nice win, 5-3. Cannot say enough good things about Bryce Miller tonight. Best I've seen him. And hopefully that is a sign of great things to come for the Seattle Mariners. Polanco and Urias pitch in with solo home runs. The Mariners are 4-5. Hasn't been the best start ever, but they're hanging in there. And they're not the Marlins. Marlins 0-9. Gosh, how about that? How about some of these Tommy Johns? Shane Bieber now down with Tommy John surgery. What a shame. I just hate seeing injuries from great players. So, and I think there was someone else, Spencer Strider, is getting an MRI or something like that. So hopefully he's okay. Just a big shame for baseball in general. So hopefully those guys are okay. Just wanted to throw that in there, wishing them the best. And let's get a series win tomorrow. First one of the year. Have a great night, everybody, and go Mariners. Peace.